The race for the Charleston County School Board is heating up, especially in the West Ashley area. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down one-on-one with candidate Francis Marion Beylotte III. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Francis Beylotte, it is so good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. You know, the last time I saw you was probably 2 weeks ago when I helped moderate the Lead of Women Voters forum for the Charleston County School Board members at North Charleston High School Auditorium.
Yes. Yeah.
And obviously there were tough questions to ask.
Good question.
Oh, thank you greatly. Obviously we were talking at the time, and still are, about the Marvin Gavers case.
Yes.
And the rodent issue at the Gallery Academy.
Yeah.
When you look at those two issues, what more questions do you have?
Of course, I have a lot of questions about the alleged child molestation case, and I just have to wait and see what comes out of that. I think I said everything I wanted to say about that at the forum. You know, I went to James Island High School, and we had a child molester prowling through the halls, Eddie Fisher, while I was there.
Okay.
So this is really hits me, and yeah, I've said everything I need to say about that.
Let me get back to your campaign. Obviously,
Sure.
You're running for the West Ashley seat for the Charleston County School Board. 2 weeks from now, the election will actually take place.
Yes.
What is it like for you to be a candidate?
I'm planning to be on the board, and you know, voting's already happening.
Right.
I was at Seacoast all morning.
Right.
I'm building this block by block, vote by vote, and I'm really encouraged by what I see when I talk to folks. I do feel like I'm a little bit caught in the middle between these two sort of quartets of candidates that are going after each other.
Okay.
One is kind of the Coalition for Kids, Ben Navarro quartet, and then the other is these sort of revenge of the former CCSD folks. And I'm just stuck in the middle saying, hey, I'm a parent, I want to work hard, I know education policy, and let's get to work. And so trying to get attention in between all that noise is really hard. But I'm happy with what I'm doing because I get really good responses when I talk to people, and it feels great.
When you talk to those people in the community about the Charleston County School Board and the school district respectfully, what are they telling you?
They don't hear good things. They usually like their own school, and they just feel like there's too much bickering. They feel like there's too much adults talking about each other and to each other and not paying attention to the needs of kids. Probably every 20th or so door I knock on has educators in the home, and they don't feel valued at this time. So, that's what we have.
You said you are a parent.
Yeah.
What is it like for you to be a parent and running for the Charleston County School Board?
Good question. It's really hard. It's really hard. It's very hard. I got to be honest with you. And I'm looking forward to the campaign being over. But I've taken my campaign in stages. My first stage was to visit. I sent an email to every principal in every school asking to visit. And not all of them responded. So I sent another email, and if they didn't respond, I figured they don't have time, they don't want to do it. And I went around and visited all the schools I haven't seen before, quite a few, and just gathered information that's different from what I see, because my son attends C.E. Williams, my daughter attends Ashley River Creative Arts, and they've attended other schools in the district, so I'm familiar with those schools. I'm familiar with some of the other schools closer to my home. And so after that, I stepped back and I went to the South Carolina room in the Charleston County Public Library, and I went back to the beginning of the consolidation of this board, and I reviewed the minutes and the policies and the different things that have come through over the years. And then I kind of put a set of ideas together and have proposed some very specific policies that I would like to bring to the board on day one to discuss solving some of these issues.
What are those policies right now?
I think the issues we have really fall into two big categories, right? It's teachers and students, right? So let's talk about teachers first. I hate to say it's a little easier, but when I talk about students, you'll understand why.
Okay.
As I said earlier, teachers don't feel valued. overall. Most teachers that I talk to, and my mom's a teacher, I usually ask them, would your life be any different if Thanos snapped his fingers and 75 Calhoun disappeared? And I've never had anyone say they care. So they feel disconnected from 75 Calhoun. And there's also a lot of stuff that's been coming out about how much money is spent on administrative. I know Jake Rambo put out a spreadsheet of people's salaries with their names listed. And I don't know, I didn't speak to him about the intention of that, but it appears to be a way of shining a light on the exorbitant salaries that are at 75 Calhoun. And I feel like, there's a better way to go at that.
Okay.
And I think it's looking at another measure of how our budget is spent. And it's what percentage of our budget is spent in education and instruction. And in Charleston County School District, that's 50%. Does that seem like a good number to you? You're not going to say?
Not that. I'm supposed to ask the question.
Sorry.
Well, let me ask you this. As far as the budget,
Yeah.
what would you put in and what would you take out?
Well, let me just say,
Okay.
broadly speaking, 50% is not enough.
Okay.
Okay. When you look at all the districts in the state, it ranges from 43 to 58. All right. And so I think it should be about 75%, to be honest with you. And that would be my goal over 2 terms on the board,
Okay.
is to reorient the expenditure of the funds so that 75% is spent in education and instruction instead of 50%. So I think that creates a better balance and shows the community that we're really wanting to spend that money inside classrooms, inside schools. All right. The other thing I want to do is replace the constituent boards with teacher advisory boards, which are comprised of CCS teachers elected from among their peers, and empower those boards to interact with the Board of Trustees in a way that equalizes power. And I think the best way to get trust and increase morale is to share power. And I think what we have now is teachers don't feel empowered to engage with the policy that comes to them. And I think we need to put a structure permanently in place that codifies that power for teachers. And these boards would be, like I said, CCSD teachers currently working in the system who would comprise these boards. I would also argue that those boards should have the power with a majority or a 2/3 majority. This is policy, we can negotiate it as we go. These boards should have the ability to overturn decisions made by the Board of Trustees. Additionally, I think these boards should be able to impeach members of the Boards of Trustees as well. So that's a way to really truly empower and share the policy direction and the operation of the school district with teachers who are in front of kids every day. So those are my specific policies that I think we need to change, and I look forward to getting on the board and discussing those and moving forward with them. The other part, students, that's really complicated, Quintin. It's we have a long and troubled history of inequality in this community, and it goes back really to the founding of the Carolina colonies. And it's our cross to bear. And when you look at the differences between schools, and when you talk about Garrett and you talk about these other schools, typically these schools that have these kind of basic issues that they shouldn't have tend to be mostly schools with children of color. And we continue to have disparities in the outcomes in suspension rates and graduation rates and other kinds of test scores between white kids and black kids. This is an existential challenge for us as Charlestonians to come to the table and develop solutions that really help black children move up in the world and build wealth across generations and improve their lives and own property and do the kinds of things that we did to build the middle class in America, but we left black people out at that time. And so now we're in a position where We've kind of moved back from those policies that we had in the 50s and 60s that helped build the middle class, and everybody's sort of on their own. And I think we need to really look at ways that we can use the school system to repair the legacy of racial terrorism and white supremacy and the hoarding and the non-sharing of resources within our school system and our society. So, yeah, that was a long, rambling, philosophical answer, but I think it's at the heart of all the issues. You talked about the Clemson. Was the Clemson report out when I talked to you last?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't believe so. Yeah, so the Clemson report came out. I got a Clemson report here from 50 years ago.
Okay.
Said the same thing. We didn't do anything then. We tried to consolidate the school board, and this report said you need to do two things. You either need to break the district into 3 districts, and this was before consolidation, right? When the constituent boards were the boards.
Okay.
They said you either need to consolidate the board, all the boards, and make one big board, or you need to break the district up into 3 big districts. Okay. We didn't choose to do either one of those because we created the consolidated board, but we left the constituent boards in place, right? And the idea of the consolidated board was to just make sure everybody gets the money equally, right? But that hasn't happened. And while the constituent boards were operating the schools and hiring the teachers and hiring the principals and doing the main work of an actual board, that has been usurped from them over time.
Okay.
To the point now where the constituent boards do very little. I think that has proven to be ineffective, and I think we need to change how we've got the board structured. That's why I've suggested to replace the constituent boards with these teacher-based advisory boards, and then have the consolidated board be responsible for everything.
If I were to go down to 75 Calhoun Street right now and open that door, where would I find diversity? Where will I find transparency? Where will I find accountability?
Nowhere. I mean, I don't know everybody who works at 75 Calhoun. I know you don't find transparency. I know that's an issue. It's been very difficult for me to learn about the budget, and the budget that's released is huge. It's got a lot of pages, but there's a lot of, as I told you last time I was here, there's a lot of kind of opaque information that's not really shared, and I'm not sure why. So in terms of diversity, I don't know what the percentage of employment demographics is at 75 Calhoun, and what was the third part of your question?
Accountability.
Accountability, yeah, that's a good one. I think what we have overall in the CCSD system, and it includes the Board of Trustees and the constituent board, is a diffusion of accountability. Because everybody's blaming somebody else all the time. Everybody's blaming somebody else. You had a principal in here the other day who was talking about all the things that he was trying to do that he couldn't do over his career, but it was all because of this district, right? That can't be true. Sometimes you just have to take responsibility and get things done. And so you have to put in a system where there's strict shared accountability and strict shared power. And when you don't have that, you end up with this diffusion that we have now, where members of the board blame the superintendent, and the superintendent blames different principals and different groups of teachers. And to me, as a parent and somebody who came up in this school system, when I think it was a lot more diverse and effective than it is now, believe it or not, I'm just saying enough already. Let's step back and look at a way to restructure this and reform it in a way that gets to those issues that you're talking about.
You say the superintendent generally blames the principals. Why isn't she blaming the Board of Trustees?
I don't know. That's a good question. I should be clear about what I said.
Okay.
Generally speaking, I don't know who she blames. I have specific examples of principals being blamed.
Okay.
Obviously, you've got 2 principals running that apparently had some huge issues with her. And I don't know what the details are, but I've only heard one side of each of those issues. So, I've visited with principals in schools and heard the gamut in terms of their perception of their relationship with the superintendent, so.
If you were to be elected on the Charleston County School Board, and you just talked about what you do on day one,
Yeah,
how would you have a relationship with Dr. Postaway?
well, I've met with Dr. Postaway, and I've been to many board meetings, and I also watch the committee of the whole.
Right.
I email with her frequently, and so to me, it's about, trying to figure out, where we can go forward from here, given the controversy we've had over the past year. But I think, going back even to McGinley and Goodloe Brown.
Johnson. Goodloe Johnson.
Yeah, sorry. and I don't mean to speak ill of those who have passed, but I think these issues we have in the district have been kind of snowballing over the past 30, 40 years. And we just happen to be at a breaking point right now. And Dr. Postaway is in the middle of that. She made some mistakes early in her tenure, and that's really unfortunate. And I don't know how that's going to be repaired. I really don't.
Francis Beylotte III, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir.